As someone who's played this game every day for the past 2 years, it can honestly be a very difficult game to love some days. I remember back in the days when I started this game, just how much harder it actually was. That said, I put together a list of some of the most painful mistakes you can make, especially when you're starting out Star Citizen. Let's jump in and take a look at them. Let's start with the basics. No, literally. My first mistake is not learning the basics. What I mean by this is learn how to master your controls. Learn how to take off. Learn how to land under stress smoothly every single time. There's nothing like being chased by a pirate, beelining it for a station, and crashing into the doors. Been there, done that. It's really embarrassing. When you're in a really tight situation, the wrong button press can be incredibly costly. So it's very important to make sure that you have the controls down before you do anything super risky, so that it's second nature. You don't have to think about it. If you're sitting there trying to remember what button opens the hangar doors, you may want to make sure that you're not rushing in a situation where you need them open right away. The other thing to consider is that Star Citizen is a little bit of a unique game in the sense that it's not really a dedicated FPS or flight sim type model. So if you have a dedicated rig for flight sim, you have to make sure that your rig is also very comfortable for FPS play, which is not something that most people think of when they build a flight sim. I know it's a funny thing to say to learn your basics, but how do you actually go about doing this? So my suggestion would be to take your time and do smaller, less risky missions to begin with. It's a nice way to go through all of the different scenarios, taking off, landing, getting up, getting out, etc., without a lot of the pressure that you would normally feel if you were running a large cargo mission or something along those lines. And my other tip here is to keep your controls simple. Focus on just what you actually use and evolve them with time. If you're using sticks or other controls, create the keybinds yourself and make a map that you can print off and refer to. If you're using somebody else's keybinds, it's very difficult to know what they were thinking and why they would choose a button that they were choosing. I know it's easier, but it's actually a lot more intuitive to set them yourself. So what I would suggest doing is take a small mission, use your controls, press the button that feels natural. So when you want to raise your landing gear, for instance, press whatever button you think you should have to press to do that, and then go and map it and write it down. This means that the next time that you go to press that action, it was intuitive to you the first time, so you're probably going to remember what button to press the next time. And for both keyboard, mouse, and your controls, appreciate that your controls and your keybinds specifically will grow with you as you get more experience in the game. To be honest, I played for about 12 months before I even knew how to fire missiles with my keyboard and mouse. It was just not something that I ever actually did. The game had changed numerous times, and I just never bothered to look it up. Now, I'm not exactly a combat pilot, so I didn't really need to know how to do that. But again, just appreciate that your keybinds can grow with time. It's a lot easier to add 1 or 2 every week than it is to try and memorize 300 on the first day you start playing. Now, mistake number 2, not managing your money and your cargo well. So, even with proper protection, you have to appreciate that this game still has bugs in it. And what can happen is the game just glitches out. And all of a sudden, you lose all the cargo on your ship. It's happened to me numerous times, way more than I'm comfortable with. But you have to learn to appreciate that and never risk what you're not willing to lose. So just a little bit of story. Back when I started to play, it was actually about 6 months into playing, and I decided to risk every penny that I had ground for months to try and actually earn. I risked 25 million AUAC buying RMC, I believe it was at the time, from an outpost and flying it over to Area 18 to sell it. Now, this was going to be an incredibly profitable run. I think the investment was about 25 million. I think the payoff was like 90% or something ridiculous, which meant that I was basically going to double my money time over time over time. So I went into the little back where you buy the RMC, bought it, spent my 25 million, walked out the door, player jumped out of the bushes in front of me, shot me, and the game 30K'd before I could respond. By the time I got back into the game, I had lost everything except 1,500 AUEC. I actually didn't even have enough credits to fuel up my mining ship to go out and actually start to grind back my credits. I had to go and do an insurance claim on it just to get the fuel to be able to go out and mine some rocks to get a little bit of money. Never risk anything that you're not willing to lose. My rule of thumb here is actually to never risk more than half of the money that I have in any run ever. The rest of it stays in my account in my MobiGlass there. But if I have 20 million credits, never spend more than 10 million at any given time. And even at that 10 million would be disastrous to lose. So I always make sure that I have a nice healthy buffer, because having money in this game is a nice way to actually earn money a lot quicker. The initial grind is by far the farthest, as it is with most MMOs. Nice little bonus tip here: if you've just purchased the game or you're thinking of buying the game, make sure that you use someone's referral code. Now, if you have a friend, use theirs. If you don't have a friend that has one, use mine in the top of the description below. What this does is it gets you a bunch of extra starting credits, which is actually very nice when it comes to trying to start out in the game. It's enough to get a decent set of armor and kind of really get your feet into it before you have to kind of grind to try and get anything. Again, just grab the referral code on the bottom or click on the link, and you just sign up as you normally would. Now, if you've already signed up, you actually have, I believe it's 24 hours from the time that you sign up to use it or to re-add it to your account. So that was a recent change they put in, so it's not too late if you've already signed up. On to mistake number 3 here: ignoring the learning curve and fighting the bugs. Now, this game is still in active development. Bugs will happen. That I promise you. Now, how you choose to respond to those bugs really determines how much you enjoy this game. The game is definitely playable, but there are still some quirks, if you will, like sometimes you go to quantum and it doesn't quite work or assign your power the way you would expect. But again, learn those bugs and learn to work around them. You'll find that the game is a lot more enjoyable when you actually do that. One of my favorite bugs in this game is the one that I'll show you on screen here, just because it is ridiculous. So there's a certain area in my hangar that if I get too close to, I simply fall through the wall on the floor and plummet to my eventual death. I mean, there's walls on all sides. There's a platform underneath me. There is no reason that this should ever happen. But again, I just learned not to go near that area in my hangar. And it was actually just the other day that I remembered that it even existed. But again, just avoid the areas, avoid the bugs, and you'll actually enjoy this game a lot more than if you get stressed out by it all the time. The second worst thing that I think you can do in this game is to ignore the actual community surrounding this game. This game is what's called a community-driven game, in the sense that community is really driving a lot of the development that's happening at CIG. So ignoring the community is very detrimental to your gameplay experience. Now, I played for the first roughly 18 months in this game, just trying to do it solo or do it with a couple of buddies and really ignoring the entire community that existed. That was a huge mistake. So I've since joined a very good org, USC. Now, even if you're in that org just to sit there and chat with people and to talk about the new ships, it really makes the game a lot more enjoyable. Don't think you have to play through this game alone. I mean, it's an incredibly complicated game and it's not even done yet. And honestly, some days it's too complicated for its own good. When you layer on the bugs and the issues on top of that, the game can be very, very frustrating if you're trying to get through it alone. So there's a couple ways that you can actually engage with the community, and depending on your comfort level, of course. The first one would be through creators like myself on YouTube, Twitch, etc. Now, we try to provide very helpful tips to people. So just as a hint, make sure that you subscribe so that you'll actually get notified of any new videos that come out, including those helpful hints. Sorry for the shameless plug there. But a lot of the creators are really truly part of the community, and they want to make this game better. And along with it, the new players that actually come to join the game. So I strongly advise that you go out and find your favorite YouTubers. Whether or not I'm part of them, it doesn't matter, but find your favorite YouTubers and watch a bunch of their videos. If you're interested in mining, go watch mining, salvage, same thing. Like, go watch what they're actually into, because they're going to give you a lot of tips that are going to save you a lot of time and frustration as you go forward. Second, the in-game chat. Now, there's some real undesirable people that play this game, like every game, of course. But generally, I find that the people that are in the general chat are incredibly helpful. Time and time again, I see people saying, hey, can I borrow your reclaimer? I've never flown one, but I really wanted to see how it actually works. Leverage that as a resource. The game chat is there to help you. These people are actually very nice, and I've seen people kind of join up in parties and walk other people through missions, and it really is just a truly amazing experience to watch the in-game chat. It's not like any other game I've ever seen, to be honest. And then finally, like I mentioned, there's organizations that exist outside of the game. Eventually, they'll have a lot more pull in the game, of course, as well. But if you join a good org, it makes a world of difference. Even if you're there just to chat about the new ships or chat about the new features, it really makes the game feel a lot more like a large community than just a game. So I am part of the USC. I do highly recommend them. Put a link in the description as well if you're actually interested in joining. There's a process to go with it, but what I suggest is find an org that's similar minded to yourself. Play with them for a bit and see if you're actually interested. Now, I went through at least, I'd say, half a dozen different orgs before I found USC. So it's nice to have found that community. There's some really good guys in there that I do really kind of enjoy just chatting with. Now, I do tend to play the game solo. Don't think that joining an org means that you have to play with people all the time. Even the most active players in orgs, I find spend like 85% of their time playing solo. So just keep that in mind. It's not a commitment that you'll never play by yourself. All it is a place to go and chat about the game and the quirks about it. Now, the number one mistake that I think that any new player can make on this game is visiting the pledge store and spending real money on the game itself. Now, take this from somebody who has spent way too much money on the game. It really does ruin the game for you. So the easy solution to this one is obviously don't spend real money, but the reason that I say that it ruins the game is it takes away the reason to grind in the game. So, as you know, most of the ships, actually almost all of the ships, are available within the game for AUEC. Now, you have to do things to actually earn the AUEC, or it could be Wicklow favors, but most of the ships are actually available in-game. Now, if you go out and you spend a bunch of real money on it, there's no reason to grind for those ships, which really takes away the majority of the reason to play the game. Therefore, if you want to play the game, you have to find your own game loops. Now, that actually makes the game a lot more boring than it could be if you were actually sitting there mining for a purpose. At least that's what I find. It takes a special kind of person to be able to actually just entertain themselves in this game without doing it for a reason or for a purpose. Okay? Now, there's a couple other things that you can do to kind of save yourself a bit of money. Real money. Rent ships. A lot of people actually forget that there are a decent number of ships that can be rented, especially some of your more starter ships, starter-oriented ships. Now, I say that, but it's ships like the Prospector, the Mole, things like that. You can actually easily rent these ships in-game without spending a lot of in-game money, so you don't actually need to buy them. I say that because I bought both the Mole and the Prospector because I, for some reason, didn't want to grind for it. I wanted to have them if the game ever reset. I wanted to have them and start out with them. That was my justification. Problem is, now I have nothing to grind or work forward to. Okay? Now, as I mentioned before in my previous tip there, ask in the chat if anyone's willing to actually lend you a ship. So I'm not going to lie, I've bought ships just to see how they fly and see if I like them. Now, you can always ask in the in-game chat if anyone has one that they'd be willing to lend you. And every single time that I've seen somebody ask this, and people ask a lot, somebody in the chat steps up and says, yeah, I've got one in the hangar. You can go take it out as long as you want. I'm going to be on for a couple hours, kind of thing. And people will actually just give you their ship. It's kind of amazing. But the way the game is set up right now, there's really no consequence for lending out your ship. So people are really willing to do it. It's actually a pretty brilliant model. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, if you do spend money on ships, you aren't really committing to keeping that ship. You can actually melt the ship and save the money for credit. So if you do want to kind of play around with new ships and things like that while you wait for them to come into game, that is an option. You can put a couple $100 into the game and just keep recycling that to buy the next ship. But again, I highly recommend don't buy ships for real money other than your original starter pack. Obviously, most of the ships are going to be available in game. It might take 3 to 6 months, but most of them will be available in game in one way or another. So, gives you something to grind towards. Now, just a little bit of a bonus tip. If you are going to ignore me on the previous tip and you are going to spend real money, a couple other things that you should keep in mind before you go and spend a lot of money on ships. First one, learn to play the CCU game. It's actually a great way to get, I say at least 25% off of the cost of a ship, but I've seen people get a lot more than that off of it. It's basically done by upgrading your ship in certain steps during certain periods of the year where CCUs are on sale. So what that means is you can go from a $100 ship to a $200 ship by potentially paying $75. Now, it's not always the case, and certain times of the year, certain weeks, they'll launch basically sales on ship upgrades. And if you stack enough of those up together, buy a $500 ship, you may actually end up saving $200, for instance, depending how lucky you are and how you build your chain. So there's definitely some good creators out there that can teach you how to play the CCU game. I strongly advise go search those out and learn how to do that because it's a nice way to save a bunch of money. Now, again, I'd recommend that you don't spend real money, but if you're going to, it's a nice way to save some of your money. One of the other ways is look at the gray market. So there are websites out there I won't name, but essentially they are people who have played the game or done the CCU chain, and they just want to sell their ships. But they're willing to sell them at a discount over what you can buy them from CIG. Now, there's always a risk in doing this, but it's a nice way to get ships for a lot cheaper than you would spend on the website. And as an example, I think I bought my Polaris for about $500. Now, that's roughly a $1,000 ship that I got for about $500. So it kind of gives you an impression of exactly what the options are. But again, this is a gray market, so there is risk there. So if you end up not getting your ship, please don't blame me. Never spend money that you can't afford to lose in this game and just in life in general. Now, another suggestion is actually to watch ship reviews, like those that you find on my channel and other channels out there as well, because it really gives you a better picture of the ship before you go and purchase it. I'm as guilty as the next guy about buying a ship just to see how it flies with real money. So, nice way to kind of get around that is to, like I say, watch the ship reviews. The other thing you can do is if you are a subscriber to Star Citizen, anytime a new ship comes out, you actually get to play with it for a week. So yes, I'm telling you to spend money to save money, but it stops you from having to actually buy the ship to see how it flies. And finally, like I mentioned before, you can actually melt ships. So if you want to play with the newest, prettiest toy that comes out all the time, you can put a couple $100 in, buy the ship. When you're bored with it, melt it. And then when it becomes available in-game, buy it for in-game credits. Or melt it at that point, or melt it before, whatever, if you're actually bored with it. Now, this is nice because you can put a couple $100 in and kind of keep rolling it over ship to ship to ship. You're not stuck with your purchases in this game. So just keep that in mind. But again, I'll say it one more time, just in case you weren't listening. I strongly recommend that you don't spend real money on this game outside of your starter pack and your game package. Grind for the ships and earn them in game. It definitely makes the game feel a lot more worthwhile. And that's coming from somebody who spent way too much money on this game. And I would, if I could start over again, I honestly wouldn't. I would actually grind from the bottom up. If you're new here, or if you're a returning person who's not yet subscribed, make sure that you click the subscribe button. I like to give out tips like this all the time, and I do think that my videos do try to help out the community. Always open to feedback as well. But click the subscribe icon down below so that you can actually get notified every time that I release a new video like this. And just a friendly reminder that I did promise that I would give away a ship when I hit 1,000 subscribers. So if you're looking to save a little bit of money, maybe not necessarily earn it in game, a simple subscription and a comment below could actually earn you a ship. This has been another video by Citizen Chaos, and I can't wait to see you in the verse.